all the important things we don't know. How are you guys doing? Hopefully you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into it. All right, Pursuit of Wonder, don't miss. I'm not here to take up any more of y'all's time. This is a longer video, so let's go.
This video is sponsored by Blinkist.
This is
Use the link in the
most
description
of
and you'll
the
receive
videos
one
are
free
sponsored by
week
Blinkist.
and 25% off an annual
Shouts out
premium
Blinkist.
membership.
I've had it for a little bit.
Molly was born completely blind. She has never seen a color, a shape, an object, anything. She navigates and understands the world primarily through touch and sound. In order to distinguish the objects she encounters, she runs her hands across their surfaces. Molly is also very superstitious. For good luck, she always carries with her lucky marble and lucky die. Depending on the situation, she often takes one of them out and rubs it in her hand. She can distinguish between the die and the marble by feeling and discerning the die's angular edges and pointed corners versus the marble's round, smooth surface. At 18 years old, Molly undergoes cataract removal surgery and an intraocular lens implant. Her blindness is effectively cured. Molly awakes from the surgery, and for the first time in her life, she sees the world around her, all the colors and shapes and
Is
objects.
that a real thing that can be done? I'm not like super knowledgeable on like procedures and like surgeries and stuff that are getting done. Is this something that can be done right now? Like I usually don't hear that people that are blind are getting cured. Or maybe I've been out of the loop, but I always thought if you were blind from like the get-go, I guess born blind, that's what he said, right? Also just get going blind. As of right now, I don't think we have like an effective like cure. Right? Do we have that? I don't know if we have that. I'm not. Am I just like out of the loop here? I don't know.
Objects previously known to her only by touch and language. On the table next to the hospital bed are her lucky marble and lucky die. In this moment, she wants to hold her lucky marble. She looks at both items on the table. Before touching them, can she tell which is which? Can she tell the marble from the die, having only touched them but never seen them?
Can she tell which is which without touching them? No. Because you don't know what you'd expect. You know it's smooth, but you don't know what smooth looks like. Well, oh shit, it's a hard one. Actually, you would have to know like there's no angles though. Like you would see it and be like, huh, that the marble has less angles. That one looks more, square shaped. I don't know.
This question is what is known as Molyneux's problem, originally formulated by philosopher William Molyneux in 1688. Intuitively, it might seem obvious to assume that Molly will be able to connect the smoothness she's touched in the past to the rounded appearance of the spherical marble, and the pointedness she's felt to the angular appearance of the cubic die.
But the thing is, you don't know which one is which, though. Like, I say no because you don't know which one's which.
Prior visual experience, without any reference points for what smoothness or pointedness or anything looks like, how would she be able to make these connections? For hundreds of years, versions of this thought experiment have divided philosophers. Empiricists, believing someone in this situation would not be able to identify the objects because knowledge comes only or primarily from first-hand sense experiences.
Has this never happened?
Which in this case have not yet been had. Would not be able to identify the objects because knowledge comes only or primarily from first-hand sense experiences, which in this case have not yet been had.
With the eyes.
Rationalists believe that the person would be able to identify the objects because knowledge chiefly comes from our ability to reason, and the connections will be able to be deduced through one's rational faculties. Nowadays, though, modern science allows for the possibility of this thought experiment to not just be debated over, but actually tested. In 2011, MIT professors Richard Held and Dr. Pawan Singha conducted an experiment in which a group of children and teenagers who were born blind received cataract removal surgery, curing their blindness. Just following their surgery, the participants were then presented with Lego-like blocks. One collection of blocks was placed visibly on a table, and another identical collection was placed hidden from view under the table.
How do you get this test to go on the way, though? Like, I feel like you have to go through a lot of, like, like you have to get permission from a lot of people for you to run this test on newly cured blind children. It's like, and it's like somebody would argue, what's really the importance of knowing this other than just pure curiosity? Like,
only perceivable by touch. When the participants were asked to match objects they had felt
Well, maybe
with
it does have
objects
importance
seen,
that I'm
the
not
results were essentially equivalent to chance, with 58% accuracy. In other words, Molly would not dependably be able to identify the marble or the die.
okay, so
The
I was
experiment
right.
concluded that the empiricists were right. The primary tool we have to get the outside world inside our head into knowledge and understanding is our senses, not our reason. This study is not without critiques, though, and some argue that since there is variability and other factors involved with things like the surgery's recovery process, as well as the duration of time participants were tested after it, the problem is still somewhat inconclusive. However, regardless, Molyneux's problem points to a broader problem, our first unanswerable
Yes.
philosophical question.
Okay.
How do we know that what we are perceiving is accurate?
Man, this goes back to Descartes, man. Why should we doubt? Higher powers could be deceiving us. Our senses can deceive us all the time. What was it that I just saw running back there behind that bush? Was it a bunny? Perhaps I thought it was a yeti. Perhaps I thought it was a bear. But in reality, it was only a squirrel. Or maybe I thought it was a squirrel and it's a bear. You know, it's like our senses are not that accurate, but they're pretty accurate. They do their job well, and their job is to be able to spot out if there is a danger hiding behind those bushes. So, I think if you know, but just by nature, the fact that nature designs it, right? Nature designs it for survival purposes, unless if there's something wrong with it, you know, like there was a mess up in the creation of the design, like somebody being born blind or through accidents going blind. Then that's when you have more of a problem. But normally, fully functioning senses can be very much deceived. So that's a
If we come to understand the world not primarily through reason, but through our sense experiences, how accurate are our perceptions and understandings if our senses are limited and often unreliable? Most of us assume that what we are encountering outside of our head is relatively consistent with how it seems inside. But how do we know? And can we ever know for sure?
consistent.
The term
Because it's the only
qualia
way.
refers to the internal, subjective, qualitative properties of experiences. This includes things like color, taste, and feelings, pain, love, sharpness, smoothness, and so on. And so, whether or not what we are perceiving is accurate to the world in and of itself depends largely on whether or not qualia, or our subjective experiences, are intrinsic properties of the world, or merely a product of the mind, or some combination. Even if we can use tools to measure, test, and enhance our insights about the physical world, the last stop for everything is still the mind. We are always left with and limited by the cognitive and perceptual frameworks inbuilt in the mind. Since we can never experience anything outside of the mind, including the mind itself, we can never know what anything is actually like outside of it. This is
But the concept of you going outside of your mind to seeing what things out there really look like, because you know we understand our senses are flawed, so therefore we're gonna say that what we're really intaking, we can't say beyond a certainty of a shadow of a doubt that it's really what is going on. This thing of really is like it's not helpful, you know, because it's not like this hand that you guys are seeing. It's not that it's necessarily going to be a completely different thing if I could step outside of it and see it for what it really is, you know? Perhaps it only ever exists if there is a eye that can perceive it. Like, if I can't perceive it, if nothing in the universe has eyes to perceive anything, if the universe never like life never formed, then the universe is absolutely dead and there is nothing to be perceived. It's not that there isn't anything, but it's like nothing can be seen anyway. And what you're talking about is like meta seeing. You're talking about going outside of the fucking properties that you have and seeing something in a way that you are not built to see it. Now, you know, bees, what is it? Those motherfuckers that fly, they have like those crazy eyes. They can see more colors. Yes, you can see more colors. You can see things. Perhaps you know, we only have these five senses because it was necessary for our survival. We could have more receptors that can recept other stuff. But when it comes to seeing, this is like about as good as you need to get. Okay, this is about as good as we could ever hope to get. This is as much as we should ever be worried about seeing. You know, if you can see, fine. Not necessarily 20/20 vision, but if you can see, this is all you need to worry about. It's like, okay, I can see my hands. Boom. I don't need to worry about what it might really look like. What does that even mean? Like, what could they really look like? They're just hands, bro. Come on. It's like, I'm built to survive. I need to, you know, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it just seems kind of like a dumb question. I'm not gonna hold you.
Is often referred to as the egocentric predicament. This leads us to the next seemingly unanswerable philosophical question. How do we know that what we are perceiving is the same as other people? Of course, since we can never experience anything outside of our mind, we can also never enter into another person's to know what things are like
I
for
don't even know
them.
if they have a fucking
Not only
mind.
can we not know if the experience of blue is entirely unique to the human mind, but we also can't know if the specific blue we personally experience is unique to our mind alone.
Holy shit! Actually, that's actually kind of crazy. That's actually kind of like nutty. What if blue, like, it is just a wavelength, and our brain picks it up, right? Sensory, and then processes it, and then that process, we get it instantly. What, like, we are the processing, we are the processor, so we, like, you know, we see it as that color. I mean, if you're colorblind, you don't see it as such, but like,
Or at least is different from what is experienced in some portion of other minds. Since we can communicate relatively successfully about events and objects in the world, we can know that differences amongst objects and events outside our mind are generally proportionally consistent with differences experienced inside our mind. But just because we refer to the differences with the same terms does not mean that the differences are experienced as the same thing. Perhaps what you see as green looks like blue in your friend's mind and vice versa, but you just associate the same words with the same differences. Because all qualia are housed in the conscious private mind, we can never objectively perceive, measure, or define them without using tools or terminology that don't also fall victim to the same problem. This leads us to the next unanswerable question. How do we know that anything or anyone exists outside our mind at all? If you can never get out of your mind and experience anything outside,
perhaps because I don't think my mind would be creative enough to create the fucking tomfoolery that I see on a daily basis. Perhaps. Perhaps that's why. Perhaps because I would like to believe my mind wouldn't create some of the atrocities that go on in real life. Perhaps because I would have designed a world wherein people aren't so fucking lame sometimes. Where less people are antisocial, and less people seem so dead, and like they function like NPCs, where like they just don't think, they just like conform. They don't think for themselves. They don't get distracted like me. Like me, I'm always thinking about something. I'm always introspecting. I'm always like self-aware. At least I'd like to think so. That's what I call it. That's how I define it. But I'm always doing something. While other people are like focusing, like in class, they're actually focusing because they're being told to focus, and it's useful to focus because you know you get good grades. Yeah, it's useful in that way if you care about good grades, and there's reason to care about good grades. But you get what I'm saying? Like they are doing that stuff while I am not. I wouldn't design the world that way. I would have everybody just come talk to me. This would be sick if this was my just. Let me keep
of it, and you can never enter the mind of anyone else. How can you know for sure that anything or anyone exists outside of your mind? We reasonably assume that since the world interfaces back with us, objects and people respond to our actions, people talk and act like they feel and think things, and so on, that all of these things are real, independent things outside of our
hold on.
Objects and people respond to our actions, people talk and act like they feel and
people act and talk like how they feel. Not always. Not always. Their body language will show it. Slightly. You can't really catch it if you're not consciously paying attention to it and know what you're looking for. But Words? No, words, they'll lie. They won't say exactly how they feel.
Think things, and so on. That all of these things are real, independent things outside of our mind. But how can you know for sure that those people and things aren't merely
Because that's a question of knowing. I was talking to my physics teacher about this. It's not that there's a hole in the bottom of math, Veritasium. I think there's a hole in the bottom of logic and reasoning. It's like a problem that you run into logically. You run into it, right? Because you can't answer it, but it's like, you gotta make another term wherein you come to a place in reasoning where you gotta say, fuck, we can't answer this question, but we're all pretty much agreeing upon this idea that there has to exist out there. We all agreed upon this idea, even if I can't prove it to you and I don't have a model and I don't have a math that can show it, right? Because we depend on math, because math is capital T truth. That's what he told me. But like, you gotta have a word for when we can all just come to a consensus. We can all just come to a thing wherein it's good enough, or not good enough, or it's as good as you can hope for our human brains to ever collectively agree or understand or accept upon, right? You have to understand. This guy over there says he lives his world. He has a whole wife and kids. He's lived that. It's not my job to doubt him, okay? I can't know that, but it's not my job, okay? Everybody tells me they all live independent lives. If everybody was coming to me telling me, no, we're just we're just a project in your imagination, and then they all just disappeared, then yeah. But like, no,
merely creations of your mind? You do this every night when you dream, without question. Can you prove right now that you are not on some sort of spaceship
when I dream, I am not
hurtling
in
through the
control, bro.
cosmos, a member of an advanced
do shit
species
I
that
don't
has sent
want to do
itself
in my
off on a
dreams.
long journey to avoid a catastrophe happening
Or
on
do
its
I
host
not
planet?
really wanna do
The only way to make the duration of the journey endurable was to be placed in a stasis tube with wires plugged into your brain, temporarily clearing all memories and actively stimulating your brain's nerve impulses
Well, the thing is, I say I'm not in control, but I am. It just feels like I'm not in control.
throughout the trip in order to create a lifetime worth of experiences until arriving somewhere else
Am I in control?
and remembering it was all a simulated reality. Of course, odds are arguably very unlikely that this or anything similar is the case, but the point is, the odds are not zero, and you simply cannot know for sure. Although you can never know for sure about anything that exists outside your mind, the one thing you can know for sure is that you exist somewhere in something. As philosopher Rene Descartes pointed out, if you can think and doubt, you must exist. But then, where did you come from? Even if what you perceive
was my
isn't real,
question.
there still seemingly needs to be something other than yourself that created you and simulates, causes, or implants what you perceive. If you, in some form, exist, you must either be the creator of yourself or something else must have created you. If we assume the more likely and normal belief that
Well, other than your parents, what are you talking about created me? Like, created my matter? That's just the way that we think about it, because it's useful. And that's the way things operate here on Earth. Things are created. What if the universe is not created? What if it doesn't have to function? And that's it, like, this... There is no start of the universe. Fuck! We're not built to understand this stuff.
things and other people do exist, and you are created by other people, then those who created you must have also been created by something or someone else.
This is my loophole with the universe. If something created the universe, what created that thing that created the universe? Or if the universe did get created, it wasn't just a big bang out of matter that just existed on an empty plane, or just existed somewhere. It just existed somewhere itself. Its origin itself. It doesn't have to have a creator. It doesn't function like anything else. It just happened. That's just what I say now, right? Based on the shit that we have. It's probably super inaccurate, but that's what I had always said, right? It's like, if that's that, then who created that created that? But then, because this is the loophole that you run into using reasoning. So therefore, we're not going to use reason to find that out,
Whoever created them, again, must have been created by someone or something else so on and so forth, all the way back ad infinitum to the beginning of humanity, the beginning of life, the beginning of Earth, and the beginning of everything. And so, no matter the case, where did it all come from? If something or someone created everything, who created it or them? If everything came from nothing, how could it have come to be at all?
That's a dumb question. How could it come to be at all? It just did. But there's no rationalization for it. There's no reasoning it out. There's no way that we could ever understand why. Because why is the wrong question. How is kind of the wrong question. It just is. And it's super unsatisfactory, but I think that is honestly gonna be the answer. Honest to God, I'm scared that that's gonna be the answer. It's just origin. Big Bang is just origin. It's just what it is. It just happened. It might have been that we were coming out of a black hole from another galaxy or another dimension. And then what's in that other galaxy? Millions of other galaxies, universes, millions of dimensions. I mean, we're a part of a crazy system. You don't even need God. This is God. We're looking at God right now on the screen. You don't need to say that it's a white guy on a throne somewhere. This is God. That we are a part of something that much is known, right? It's like, okay, look at Descartes. If I can think, I can doubt I exist. But that fact that I can exist, it's 8 billion other people are supposed to exist, plus all the other animals too, but I exist in a way in which I am the most advanced and most capable animal, most intelligent animal, most conscious animal, and that is crazy. Like, what are the odds of that? Oof. Try to meditate on that for a little bit. Holy fuck. It's like, yeah, I can look at the universe, I can study it, I can see it. The animals could never hope to have this kind of, it's computer generated imagery, but nonetheless, look at what it's trying to depict. Animals could never try to depict this. Other animals, we are animals too, but like, wow. Oh shit. Wow. Goes deep. And here I am communicating. I came out of this, maybe not necessarily coming into this as if we're foreign or strangers. Perhaps Alan Watts was right. Maybe we are listening to the universe's we're the universe listening to its own harmonies. The universe looking back at itself, experiencing itself in a conscious way because of, complexity reached such a point with the right conditions here on Earth where out could come an animal, which we labeled animal, that can consciously experience things. We also labeled those things, but we know what it's supposed to be labeling, right? We know what it's supposed to be labeling. It's knowing what is like. It's just that knowing that you exist, knowing that you are a fucking thing that is alive, and that you don't know what the fuck, how any of this could make any sense. How any of this, like, we're just not built for it, and it kind of hurts. It hurts, because we're at, like, that first stage of conscious experience. Could there be another stage better than this? Where maybe they'd fare better with this question. If you could have a different stage of consciousness, perhaps. Maybe if you evolved for a different reason. Maybe if you didn't just evolve to survive and fit into close-knit communities, so now I'm all emotional. And now I have to care about people liking me. It's like, oh God, that's what I'm built for. That's what I'm built for, is to survive, to be able to reproduce. Not to be able to question what the fuck I'm looking at right now.
This brings us to our final unanswered and possibly unanswerable philosophical question. Does God exist? Of course, God means different things to different people, but in terms of what is traditionally considered God, defined in all three of the Abrahamic religious texts, the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran, there are quite a few problems. In these religions, God is defined as omniscient, omnipotent, and omnibenevolent. This means that God is all-knowing, aware of everything that has happened, is happening, and will happen, all-powerful, possessing unlimited power and able to do anything, and all good, possessing maximal morality. The problem is that there are a multitude of paradoxes that arise from these qualities. For example, the classic omnipotence paradox, the paradox of the stone, which shows that if God is omnipotent, he must be able to create a stone so large and heavy that even he can't lift it. If he can't create this stone, how can he be omnipotent? But if he cannot lift it, how can he be omnipotent? Similarly, if God knows everything that will happen, then he knows every choice, intervention, and action he will ever make. Thus, he can never change his mind.
Thus, he could have never created. Eve could have never deceived him. Ha! Fucking idiots, bro. Come on, man. That story is just ridiculous. I'm sorry. I am sorry. That's what we're believing now, that they have periods. Oh yeah, they came out of our ribs. Good story. Good fucking story. Like, no shade, no hate. I don't look. People can believe whatever they want to believe. It's not my fucking place. I don't know more than them. Like, be real here. I don't know more than them. But if you're gonna be, thinking scientific, like, if you're gonna take into account the fact that this is kind of a paradox, and it's like, you can't just dismiss this. You can't dismiss the paradox. Like, that is kind of, it's kind of sus. If that, if this God, who is supposedly a person that we refer to as, not a person, but something that we refer to as him, or, we say that it's a thing that is not just, like, dead, like a star, or is the universe as a whole alive? We don't think so. I think the universe as a whole, it's mostly dead stuff, no? So, but the thing we're saying is God. Supposedly not dead, unless if you're a panpsychist, which in that case you wouldn't think everything is dead, but that's not the point. Damn.
If he does change his mind, and he's omniscient, he must have known that he was going to change his mind beforehand.
But that is something that I didn't call it a paradox, but I always told people, how can he be all of this, and yet the story of, like, people deceiving him, and, oh, we're so bad, we're sinners, God created us to be perfect and divine, and look at what we've done. Oh, we need to repent. We need to ask for forgiveness and say sorry. It never made sense to me because of everything else that you had said. That you just, like, like there was a paradox in what you were saying, and I caught on to it early. I was like, huh? That's not, it's not adding up.
And therefore, he wouldn't be changing his mind. If he didn't know he was going to change his mind, he must not be omniscient. If he can't change his mind, he must not be omnipotent. Lastly, there is what is known as the problem of evil, which is defined as follows. If God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-good, why does evil and tragedy and suffering...
He wouldn't, but he also might not be subject to our reasoning. So he might be, well... created us in his image, no? I'm not gonna get into that.
pervade the world. If God is omnipotent, he must be able to prevent evil and suffering. If he is also omniscient, he must be able to know and foresee it. And so, he either wants to prevent evil, but he is not able to do so, or is not aware of it, or he is aware of it, and can do so, but does not want to prevent it. In the former, he is not all-powerful, or not all-knowing, or both. In the latter, he is not all-good.
If
one argues that God provides the individual with free will so as to allow the individual to choose to follow him or not, would not God's plan and awareness already include the individual choosing or not choosing to follow him? For what reason would God cause and allow individuals to not choose to follow him or be morally good if it meant that they would cause evil and suffering? If these instances are, rather, some sort of test, why would an all-knowing, all-powerful God need to make people undergo tests involving horrible evil and suffering if he can create a flourishing world without the need for tests involving horrible evil and suffering?
That is a justification to make sense of it all. That's what humans created the story, man. It's obvious.
He must work in mysterious, sadistic ways.
That's the way to justify all of it, to make stuff. Jordan Peterson talks about it all the time. Life is tragic, and it's filled with suffering and ambivalence and tragedies. It's like, it's just life is tragic. and you need meaning to offset that. Otherwise, there's no point in living. You're gonna commit suicide. It's like, hey, well, you see it. You see how much suicide is a thing now.
Of course, it could be possible that God is maximally great, but not all-powerful, or he is not omniscient and is not aware of what's going on, or he isn't all good, but rather, he is morally fallible. And of course, God, or the creator of everything, or perhaps more accurately, the underlying nature of everything, could be something entirely different, completely beyond our ability to imagine, let alone define. But the point is, the God we have traditionally defined has its problems, and the God we haven't,
That's true.
we don't know of. In truth, we cannot yet disprove the existence of any God any more than we can prove the one many claim to know. Currently, the only honest answer is we don't know.
What is knowing?
Ultimately, we can't get out of our minds to know what the universe is really like in and of itself. We can't enter into other minds to know what it is like for anyone else. We can't know if outside our mind there is...
I tried to. It's sort of what empathy is. In a really basic, bare bones, not like a pre-alpha, not even close to the real thing type of way. But like, yeah, that's what empathy is. You try to really imagine. I look at a person, I look at their behavior, and I just try to conjure up whatever my brain can conjure up, whatever it can come up with, whatever it can create, if it's creative enough, if it can do it vividly enough to the point where I can like sort of close my eyes and I can sort of see it. Really weird how that happens, seeing something in the brain. Yeah? No. Good night. Weird how that happens. It's brain can create it. I'll sit there and I'll be like, wonder what that person's thinking. I wonder what their world looks like. They live in such a different universe. They live in a completely different universe than me. Different paradigm. Sitting in a coffee shop next to each other. Don't Believe Everything You Think mentions this all the time. It mentions this a lot. It's a book. Joseph. Oh, I can't say that last name. Nguyen? Something like that. Good book. Two people can be sitting in the same coffee shop next to each other. Same environment, same day, same hour, same minute, same second. Sitting next to each other. Same table. Same day. Everything's the same. Every condition's about as the same as you can hope for it to be. Right? But one got fired from his job. Blah, blah, blah. Wife had an argument. Ooh, so he's sitting in that coffee shop angry. He's furious. Different universe. He thinks life is meaningless and that this is stupid and that he must find a way to offset the pain of life. So he wants to smoke. And he doesn't understand the pleasure principle, and all he wants to do is smoke and do drugs and drink all the pain away. And he thinks, oh my God, how horrible this is. What kind of traps must I not be able to get out of? Am I falling into? Am I going to have to work a 9 to 5? No, I can't have my dream. Fuck, and I have to come to terms with that. Damn. And it's like, oh fuck, I gotta get partying or something. I gotta enjoy my youth before it's gone. I gotta go to parties. I have a fear of missing out. I have FOMO. I have a lot of anxiety. Oh, and I gotta pay my bills. And then you have the guy next to him who's just fucking happy, has great relationships, empathetic, honest, caring, generous guy, happy. Recently proposed to his soon-to-be wife. Got a new job promotion. Meditates, reads, more introspective. Sees, reads the lives of the philosophers, and in that way lives through them. It adds on to his life. He adds their lives, their ways of thinking onto yours. Right? That guy who reads, he's increasing his life by reading and becoming friends with those people that are now dead, that decided to one day communicate this thing that was going on in here and put it on a paper so that he could leave his imprint on the world, his entropy on the world. And there you are reading it. Right? It's now created such an effect. He's not dead. He can't think. He's not even a he anymore. He's underneath, buried under the sand somewhere. Probably just a skeleton by now. Any bit of consciousness? Oh, it's all gone. But hey, we're now here. I was born after them. Weirdly enough, that's by chance. I was born after them, and I learned it. I got the ability to read, and I got the ability to know of them. And they died long before I was even born. I could have never had the chance to meet them and talk to them. They would have also been on the other side of the world, let alone not in my time period. Isn't that crazy? Traveling through time. Oh man, that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. And it's like, look at that. Look what he's doing now. He's having an effect on me. He doesn't even know me. He could never hope to. He's dead. Yet he knew. He planned it. He was hoping that maybe my book will go great. Maybe my book will last forever. You know they were hoping for that. They were hoping that their book would last for so long. I wonder what they were thinking. They were so great. Like, look at Nietzsche. Who around him at that time? Well, there was always a lot of philosophers, but it's like, think about how rare it is to be doing that kind of stuff in that time frame. Well, actually, is it rare? Probably more rare now. People don't do philosophy now. They think it's stupid. It's crazy.
There is anything at all, or if it is real in the way we think, and we cannot dig within our mind to know where it originally came from. But perhaps the problem is merely our conception of our mind, or more accurately, our conception of ourself. We often view ourselves as a distinct and separate thing, perceiving other things. We see ourselves as being in the mind, and our mind as being in our body. But the body is inescapably in the world, and we are no less dependent on the world than we are the body. All of these things are simultaneously interlocked and interdependent. Thus, perhaps in this way, there is really no outside of you. You are merely a fully embedded, non-separate part, inescapably attached to the body of the universe. If we view ourselves in this way, there is no accurate or inaccurate perception, no dichotomy between the world as it is and the world as you experience it. No beginning, no end, no outside, no inside, no separate, no other.
There's not a difference. It just is your way of experiencing. It just is your way of sensory experiencing the thing. It's not that it's wrong. You can't say it's wrong. Maybe more accurate. Accurate in what way, though? That's also the wrong question. So that's always been, like I said, the wrong question.
There is just a single unified whole of everything, everything equally true, everything equally proportional, eternally dancing the dance of everything to the tune of nothing. To doubt the existence of anything outside of you is perhaps
the tune of nothing. We don't know that.
Entirely reasonable, because in this sense, you are everything else, and everything else is you.
Very poetic, my guy. And I made the video too long.
This video.
Shouts out to you people. This was just me putting my thoughts out as I watch this. Don't think anybody stayed for that long, because I just kind of like doze off and I just keep talking and I just fucking, oh my god, I need to shut the fuck up. I'm not doing that much anymore. Trust me. I do it for these because this is like one of those videos, you know. It's like, wow. Regarding God, have answers. God is a sovereign over all things. In other words, he gets the standard. We have to consider these questions as paradoxes because we attempt to bring God down to our standards. The question of the rock refers to a human idea of infinity plus one. The question is simple when you apply some logic, as God is logical. The real question, God is logical. Says who? We just guessing that? Oh, it must be. Created this? Clearly. The real question is, can anything create something more than is already there? In basic science classes, we learned that things are never destroyed from existing, simply redistributed into an equal part of something else. Yes, the second law, I think, thermodynamics. Therefore, because God is infinite, God can make infinite, and because there is no value, that more than or less than infinite? Infinite plus one cannot exist. Does that limit God? By no means. As again, God is sovereign. I mean, that's just philosophical. Like, you're not really getting anywhere. Like, okay, you answer that. Like, I guess those takes can be. You're arguing against those takes. Still, though, God, you need to really define this. God, this is an asterisk. Put an asterisk on it. Like, this is what I preach all the time. Words need asterisks. Because it's like, goddamn. the definition of words, like, it's different for everybody. Like, what do you, like, God? What are you talking? Put an asterisk, man. Put an asterisk. If God is all good, how is there evil? The short answer is so that God. I'm not gonna read all that. Maybe I will, but I need to end this. I will see you guys. What the fuck? I'll see you guys in the next one. Yeah, yeah.